The same concept.
The same location.
Two photographers.
Two different results.
The concept.
Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm a fine art photographer, and my portfolio is a little bit strange, a little bit weird. It's definitely on the dark side, but with lots of fairy tale and fun and whimsical little elements in it. My passion is dark art photography, and I love anything that has to do with darkness, with beauty, and finding beauty in the darkness.
I'm Lindsay Adler, and I'm a New York City fashion editorial photographer, and I've been working on developing my style and my portfolio for a long time. Because I love photography so much, I've been trying every technique I could possibly imagine. But right now, I describe my style as clean, bold, graphic, bright colors, or high contrast black and white. And I think a lot of photographers struggle with that, trying to find your style. So the more you shoot, the more you experiment, the more you find what's true to your heart, what fits you. And that's, where I've been able to get to today. Photography is my passion for a lot of reasons. I'm sure you can relate to the fact that photography might be part of you. It's who you are, it's who I am. I wouldn't be the same person without it. It's nice because it's been one constant in my life since I was a little kid all the way up to an adult. Everything else has changed, but photography has been the one thing that's been a constant. And I love it because I feel kind of like a magician in the fact that I can make up any idea. It doesn't matter how wacky, how bizarre, whether it makes sense or not. I can make up that idea, and then all of a sudden I turn it into reality in front of me, and I can see it in a print or I see it on the computer. It really does feel like magic, especially since I'm not an artist. I can't draw, I can't paint, but I can still create something. It's a wonderful feeling.
I did this show because I wanted to show people that you don't have to have fancy equipment, you don't have to have a big studio, you don't have to have a crew working for you. You can take whatever you have available and whatever concepts are near and dear to you and turn them into something amazing.
I did this show because so many photographers think that there's a right answer for everything, and there's not a right answer for everything. There are many right answers for different things. So in the past, I had actually done a little, Brooke and I had gone out on location and shot the same model, the same location, the same everything at the same time. And we came away with two totally different pictures. And we did this just for fun because we love the idea that we're both creative artists. We're both young women that are photographers, but our pictures look nothing the same. And we both have great work. And so what I want everyone to take away from this show is the fact that whatever's right for you is what's right. And so many of us idolize this and that photographer, the photographer we wish we were, but just be the photographer you are. Your right answer is right for you, and it will produce great work. You can take inspiration from other photographers, and we certainly hope we inspire you, but also know that you don't need to copy anyone's lighting, you don't need to copy anyone's posing or Photoshop techniques. It's whatever is true to you is going to be the right answer. There is no one right answer, there are endless right answers.
We want to show you guys that two photographers can come up with the same concept in the same location with the same models, same everything, and still come away with two different pictures. The fact is that nobody else is going to do you like you do you. So do you.
People are so afraid to share. And I'm glad that photographers are less like this, but people are afraid to share like their secret locations or their secret Photoshop techniques or the lighting they do, and Brooke and I are both all about sharing. You can ask me any question about photography. What lens did I use? Where did I find the hair and makeup? Where did I come up with the idea? Like, there's nothing that I won't share, because even if you know exactly how I did it and you know every tool, you won't get the same picture. It might be better, it might be worse, it might just be different. And so that's why we're happy to share. And that's why I do share, because the more tools that you have, the more things you have to pull from to create your own vision. And that's why in the beginning, I tried every technique that existed, from paint with light to lens flare to studio photography to natural light to abstract to everything, because then I'd have that. So when different projects come up, I can pull from each one of those tools. So we're happy to provide those tools to you in the best of our ability.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The envelope, please. Why, thank you. Episode 1, Entrapment.
That's cool.
And I get to choose the location.
So you're telling me that it's gonna be dirty and messy?
Hold on, let me think for a sec. Because if the theme is entrapment,
I have ideas.
Then we should do someplace sad and old. And I saw that you did a location that was like an abandoned ship sort of thing once for a video.
Yeah.
Can we go there?
Awesome. I would love that. That place is awesome. I've only ever done a video there. So I'm gonna. Okay, this is gonna be good. I'm excited.
Me too.
Except for, I know it'll be totally different because you're gonna get dirty and messy, and I'm gonna go for like cool and epic, and you're just gonna be dirty.
How messy is it?
Really messy. When I was there, I lost a shoe because I stepped in the mud and my foot came out, but the shoe stayed.
Perfect theme of entrapment. I like it.
Yeah, it's 40 minutes from here or so, and it's not safe, but it's not dangerous, and there's a little stealth getting it. It's gonna be, you'll like it. It sounds like your kind of place.
Okay.
Awesome.
Done.
I love you.
Okay, so the concept is entrapment, and it's something actually that I deal with a lot in my work, so it's not very unusual for me this time. I have been like hanging people in sacks of fabric from trees like since day one, so this is something that I feel really comfortable with, but I've never seen this location before. So it's going to be a little strange because, you know, I know that it's a shipwreck, but I don't know how much of a shipwreck it actually is. So what I'm really hoping to do is use the mud that's there, because I've heard that it's filled with mud, and sort of bury the model in the mud and pour water all around her. And that way it's almost like she's trapped in this muddy water and the ship is trapped on land. So it's like two different types of entrapment in the same picture. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish today. And I know it's going to be really, really messy, especially burying a model in mud and covering her pretty much from head to toe. But I think that's kind of what makes it special too, is actually going in there and getting dirty and doing the work and then coming out with an image that really reflects being trapped. When somebody's actually feeling it, then the emotion's going to come through. So the process, when we get there, now Lindsay's gonna have styling, hair, makeup, all that stuff. I am very unconcerned with that. So I'm going to have my model just with a fresh face, no makeup on, nothing like that, sticking her in the mud. So I'm literally just going to put a dress on her, put her in the mud, smear mud all over her, pour water all around her, and then take the picture. So it's not gonna be a huge process, it's just gonna be a really, really messy process and perhaps an uncomfortable one. But at the same time, people get, you know, mud scrubs all the time, so I think it's going to be good.
For every position that you put your models in, is it something that you would do too, or would you ever put the models?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I always say that I would never ask my model to do something that I'm not willing to do. It's a rule that I have. So actually, when I was thinking about it, you know, I haven't even asked the model yet if she's willing to do this. And I've just been thinking in the back of my mind, if she's not, then I'm gonna do it myself and I'll just do a self-portrait. And I mean, either way is fine with me because it's fun, you know? It's like, it's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, I wanna get covered in mud, of course I do. I'm super excited to get muddy today. And so yeah, I would never put a model in that situation that would be uncomfortable. And if they say no, then I totally respect that, because there are things that I would say no to for sure.
So then you just teach them how to use your camera so that you get to be the model and make.
Nope, that's when I use my 10-second timer and I run and I slip down into the mud and it's like running for home base.
When do you decide to use like your remote versus like the 10-second timer?
That's a good question. I try not to use my remote if I'm going to sink it in the water by accident. So when I'm shooting in water, if I'm not thinking about it, you know, like I'm focusing on everything else, I've got my remote in my hand, and sometimes I just dip my hand into the water because I'm standing in the water, and then I forget completely, and I pull it back out, and I'm like, uh-oh, there goes my remote. Although I've done that many times, and it still works. So, you know, I don't know if it's actually going to hurt it, but it's not waterproof, so it will eventually. So in that case, I would try to use a 10-second timer, or just be more aware of that I'm holding a remote. Basically, I try never to use the 10-second timer if I can avoid it, because that's just a hassle.
Are you going to pose your model, or are you going to let her kind of improvise things?
I'm going to pose her exactly. So where Lindsay, you'll see her, you know, letting the model do her thing and moving around, I'm going to tell the model, this is exactly how I need you to be, and I'll probably say, do you mind if I touch you? And I'll move her arms in position, and then just say, hold it, and then I snap my picture. And that's why I won't take more than a few shots when I'm shooting, because it's all, you know, I don't take the picture till it looks right.
And do you have an idea in mind beforehand how the pose is going to be, or obviously you kind of also have to go with what's happening? And
I have an idea right now. I'm going to think it through a little bit more as the day goes on, but once we get there, I will know exactly what I want. And if it doesn't look right for some reason, I always change. I'm always open to that on set, but I pretty much always know I'm super stubborn. So, yeah.
Have you always known, or is it like the more you do shoots like that, you kind of?
I almost always know, pretty much, but there have been times when a model has surprised me on set, and she'll be doing something not even aware that she's doing it, and I'll love it and just say, okay, wait, I'm gonna change my pose and try to put her back into what she was doing. Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact is that, you know, I'm not gonna take a picture unless I'm happy, and I want to be doing it, and I'm passionate about it. So that's kind of how I run my whole life. So, you know, if I'm not feeling it, if I'm not happy, then I'm not gonna do it. And so there's just nothing to be upset about ever.
So you've never had a shoot not go your way?
Oh, absolutely, I have. But it's just the key is to not see it like that, you know, to see it as being something amazing that you can learn from, and it's never going to happen again. And that's a great feeling to know, okay, now that's over with, and I'm not going to do it ever again.
I wonder if it's easier to feel like that because you're not dealing with clients. Because I feel like that's where my stress always comes in. Is like, I'm okay with things, but then I'm worried about what they're.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've definitely shot for clients before. And in those situations, I tell them, I'm gonna do what I think is best the whole time, no matter what. And then I'll show you, and if you don't like it, we'll change, and that's fine. But for right now, this is gonna go how I would naturally shoot it. And they're usually okay with it. I mean, I've only had maybe 1 or 2 people say, you know, I'm not liking this, we gotta do something different. And then we do, and I still go with my, like, plan B vision, but at least they are feeling a little bit better about it.
How does a client approach you? I mean, do you find, is there a pattern to the type of clients that approach you for work, or?
Kind of. Like, I'm not getting people wanting headshots or something like that, and so that's not the kind of thing that I do, but mostly I get book covers, so people needing like album art or something like that. I do a lot of that, or not a lot, but I do that. Aside from that, I get people who just want a portrait of themselves, sort of art style, that they can hang on their wall. And so I've done that before. I shot an engagement session for a couple where they said, we just want to be art. And then
that's cool.
I put them in photos that I would naturally do. So yeah, those are the mostly the kinds of things that I shoot.
All right, the theme is entrapment. And the first thing that pops into my head is like bondage and things like that, because that's what I'm thinking, like, you know, tied up leather, they can't get out. But then she's like, oh, we need to shoot in a shipwreck. And I'm like, I don't think, I mean, you could do bondage in a shipwreck, but that didn't work for me. That wasn't what I was thinking. So what I'm going to ask my wardrobe stylist to do is to find a dress that looks like a net. So it's, you know, shipwrecks and oceans, and so she's kind of trapped in a net. And I have been to this location before. So last year, I shot for this runway show, basically before they did the runway show in the fall, they played this video, the video that I did at the location. So I'm familiar with it, but there's been a hurricane since then, so I don't even know even roughly what's still there. It's funny because it's very, very messy, very, very dirty, so it fits what Brooke is going to do perfectly. And so the considerations that I have are really expensive clothes in a dirty place. And so everyone's like, okay, you know, oh, you have expensive clothes and whatnot. I actually have a net in my kit randomly. I used it for this organic shoot I did. I mean, you could wrap a net around a girl and turn it into a dress. It's just, then that's not for my job sellable. Like, I want to try to, you know, put the designer, or ideally, you shoot a really cool shot of that designer, you send it to them and they hire you for something. So when I try to do shoots, I try to make it so it's multi-purpose, so eventually, even if it's just for fun, personal, I can turn it into something that makes money, or maybe they hire me for something. And so that's actually how I got the shipwreck job in the first place last time I was there, as I shot one of their pieces for another thing. They liked it and hired me, and I came up with the shipwreck idea. So I love the location. I've been dying to do still, because everything I did, it was a directed a piece, so I actually get to shoot stills there. So I'm thinking nets and whatnot, and I'm not gonna do over the top and trapped, like fighting against it, because that's not usually my style. My style, like my images aren't very emotive most of the time. So the considerations that I have are like, I mean, hair, makeup, wardrobe, model, that whole thing. So the model, it doesn't really matter per se. I don't want her to be like blonde and really happy, because I'm thinking entrapment and shipwreck is not blonde and really happy. So I would go for somebody darker hair.
Some intensity.
Yeah, like the deep eyes.
Right.
Maybe like more like not soft face, like high cheekbone. Yeah.
Exotic,
Yeah, something like that. Like something kind of creepy. Cause you know, I mean, it's really funny because my makeup artist and I, we say our favorite models are the alien ones. Because when you look at them without hair and makeup, you're like, where did this person come from? And then you put hair and makeup on, they look really cool and intense. So yeah, I'm thinking not soft model, like a little bit harder, more mysterious. Clothing, I really want something netted. That's gonna be my how to make it kind of entrapment. I don't know hair. I don't know. I gotta kind of see the whole thing. And so something different than Brooke. Brooke was saying that she knows what she's doing. Right? I have no idea. The part that is my preparation is the hair, makeup, wardrobe. Everything else is on the fly. So when I get there, I look at the location and I figure out where to put them. I figure out what poses. I figure out what composition. I figure out what lens. Like it's basically I do all the prep beforehand. So then that is creative. But then when I get there, how I shoot it is 100% unplanned. I just figure it out. And you'll see I don't use strobe on location, like ever.
Natural light.
It'll just be natural light. That's stylistic. Like, if you look at a lot of fashion magazines, okay, they do the opposite of portrait. I don't know if it's meant to be like snooty per se, but like, oh, portraits, that's a portrait, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do fashion. So it's like natural light, gritty, sometimes like blatantly bad light, but it's photographed in a cool way. So I'm just gonna use whatever light's there. I'll maybe use the reflector. So like, that's my whole process. It's like, okay, what kind of model do I want? What kind of clothes? Then when I see the model and the clothes, I decide what the hair and makeup is, and I might do like a little bit of inspiration, put together a mood board. I know the location, I go there, and then I figure out how do I make this look good.
I'm gonna say, how do you have access to?
And that's it. So I get to ask this question all the time. Okay, first of all, I did not start there. It wasn't like, oh, like it was literally Target, buy return, or like make stuff. And I'm not creative in that way as far as hands-on creative. Like I can't really make stuff, so I looked up people on things like Etsy, but when I was doing this there was no Etsy, so I was looking up people online for stuff. But the clothing now, it's not luck, but it's kind of luck. Okay, it was luck that you meet somebody that's just right. You know, it wasn't lucky that you got in that situation. So I reached out to a wardrobe stylist on Model Mayhem way back when, before I moved to New York. I had not a single designer piece in my entire portfolio, zero, nothing. I reached out to this designer and I had an idea. And I was like, hey, I've got an idea for this shoe. I want to do like the farmer's daughter, and I lived on a farm upstate. So I convinced the wardrobe stylist, which you'll meet, Lisa. I convinced her to come upstate 3.5 hours from New York City to do this shoot. And long story short, she liked working with me, knew I was professional, got the images back on time, I did a good job, and then she worked with me ever since. So she already had all the designer stuff, so it was kind of like, I went from Target to like high-end stuff like that because it was easy to work with and it was nice pictures. So that's how I kind of got there. It's not luck, but you know what I mean? It's luck that it's like, oh, awesome, I have this person now that has, like on my farm, I remember she was like, those shoes need to stay there, they're $4,000. And I was like I couldn't walk the girl because we were afraid she was gonna step in cow poop in her $4,000 shoes. No, so that's more or less it. It's not luck, but kind of. It was meant to be. Alright, so I was just talking to my hairstylist, and actually just the hair and makeup for the shoot, Griselle, and we're talking about the concept, and so my wardrobe stylist just sent me the dress, so I kind of know what we're going with there. It looks more or less like a net. So what we're trying to discuss is we've got this netted dress, which is pretty simple, and then the shipwreck is just massive and overpowering. So the girl doesn't get lost in that, you know? We're going to do something big and crazy with the hair so that you have to look at her. Because otherwise, I mean, the background's so impressive, you're just gonna keep looking at the background and miss the girl. So I think we're gonna do some big, wacky hair. It should be a lot of fun. I don't know if she'll fit in the vehicle getting there, but let's figure that out later.
So whenever I am planning something, I always do a terrible little sketch. And I use stick figures and weird squiggly lines and stuff like that. But then I always make sure that I write out a bunch of stuff about exactly who the subject is and what her pose is going to be, and if there's going to be motion in the picture and the camera angle and all of those little details. So once I have all of that figured out, I write it all down, I draw my little pictures, and then that way I can show the model or whoever else is involved. Typically they have no idea what it is that I'm drawing, but then they can at least read the description and sort of figure out what they have to do in the image. So I have all my dresses with me. They are here from Los Angeles, and I was kind of looking through them, figuring out which one I could completely cover in mud. So this is my backup dress that I'm gonna bring with me. It's just like a plain gray, I can get this dirty, it's fine kind of thing. But I'm actually going to be using ace bandages. So I'm gonna wrap my model in ace bandages and then put her in the mud. Because I think that'll have a more primal feel, and it's gonna match the color scheme of being very, very natural tans and browns and things like that. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to the pharmacy and see what I can pick up.
So with the theme of entrapment, I told my wardrobe stylist I needed clothing that looked like nets or that were netted, like very restrictive, and so she has on a full piece bodysuit, and these are all little net restrictive things. And actually the designer who designed this, the theme of the collection that he had done, she said, was entrapment. So that was the name of his collection for this, so it's perfect. Very restrictive, very tied in, it's perfect. And then for me, when I'm thinking shipwrecks, I think of like things washed ashore, or I think of tattered, you know, a lot of broken and tattered things. And so we have this cape that we're gonna put on her that is basically looks like tattered material, maybe cloth from a shipwreck or something like that. So when you add that to her, it adds movement, but it adds another level of storytelling, because you've got tattered from the ship, you've got entrapment from the body piece, and then you can just move and go dramatic. And see if I think this is stable enough. Oh yeah, it's rock solid. It's kind of wiggling.
Yeah, this stuff is settled for so long that...
Yeah. So I'm thinking, like, see how the sun's hitting my face? If I have her here, she's backlit, so she pops out against everything. So if she's standing here, flipping her dress, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Would you do a reflector there?
Well, I don't know if I brought my reflector.
The contrast is pretty high.
Yeah, so like mine right now, what I'm reading is I'm plus 1 1/3 overexposed.
Yeah.
From what my reader reading is.
And you're metering the whole scene, you're not spot metering.
I'm metering her.
Yeah.
Like I'm basically metering her, but not just her face.
Yeah.
And so I'm just overexposing 1 1/3, and I'm shooting it in black and white, not because it's actually shooting in black and white. It's raw, but it's giving me an idea of how much overexposed I want to be, because I know I'm going to shoot this in black and white. Like with that backlight and it has to be black and white. So the first thing I was looking for is I wanted like the big grand scene, and I had her stand in a place where she's getting a little bit of sun in her hair, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, I like that, but I see this like glowing patch of light over in the corner. So after I felt like I got what I wanted for the overview shot, I moved her over. So for me, I don't take strobes on location usually. I don't take flash on location usually. What I do is I look at the environment, I figure out my composition, and then where the light is within that composition, that's where I put the subject. So yes, I know how to use strobes on location, it has nothing to do with that, but sometimes you get that richness of making use of the highlights and shadows. And in this scene, it is crazy contrasty, like 5, 6 stops of light difference between shadow and highlight. So what I was doing is saying, I don't care about the highlights, I don't care about the sky, I care about the shadows and the detail. So I let the highlights go completely overexposed, and that's fine. You know, maybe it made a little bit of lens flare, maybe there is no detail, but it makes it a high contrast black and white. So that's kind of what I was thinking when I was shooting.
There and the legs. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the process real quick that I went through to get here, because obviously this concept has changed a bit since this morning. And this morning I was saying that she would be laying in the mud with a pool of water around her, but that was not the case. It was not possible when we got here. So I decided to change it up, obviously. This is exactly like what we were talking about. You can plan as much as you want, but you never know exactly what you're going to see when you get to set, depending on where you're going. So I decided to change my mind. I went scouting for the first hour that we were here, tried to figure out what spaces we could get to in this abandoned shipyard, and sort of realized that there was one spot in particular that really looked like a boat to me, and it was really fascinating because it was up in the air. So we're going to try our best to get the model up in the air into this little nook that we have set for her, and hopefully she'll be able to sit there comfortably. I've had 2 people try it out to make sure, and it's been okay so far. So with the change in the scene, I decided to change her clothes. Before it wasn't as important because she would be completely covered in mud anyway, so I was just gonna wrap her in ace bandage. So I decided to build sort of what a shipwrecked girl might look like. So I took my shirt off, which is actually Lindsay's shirt, and then cut it up.
Cool.
And so I decided to make that her skirt, and then I used the ace bandage for her top. So it's sort of like things that she might have had with her when her shipwrecked that she could turn into clothing. So she's going to be sitting up in a doorway, raised up into the sky, and she's going to be looking up towards the window that we see in the background of the boat. So she will be trapped inside the boat, which is trapped on the land, and it's sort of this entrapment within entrapment sort of theme that we're going with here. So I went out and shot close to the model, sort of out on the beams of the ship so then I could look up at her. And my goal there was to get her in a really dynamic pose where she was in a pose that was contrasting the lines of the ship. I also wanted to get a nice white sky in the background so then I could put sky into it. So my goal here was to create a character within this scene that was trapped in the boat, and therefore the boat was also trapped on land, and it's this theme of entrapment within entrapment. And in the end, I'm going to composite some hair onto her, hair moving. I'm going to be compositing 2 images together so that I can create a wider frame. And so basically I was just out there exposing for the model, not the background, making sure I could see detail, and that's it.
On fashion shoots, sometimes I feel almost like an event coordinator, and then sometimes also a little bit like a therapist, because I have to coordinate so many people. You know, I'll have hair and makeup, and there'll be wardrobe and model, and then if one of those elements falls apart, the whole shoot falls apart. And so ultimately, it's my vision and how I'm trying to bring the whole shoot together that matters. And so, for example, when my model showed up 2 hours late, which doesn't happen that often, you've got to make sure the hair and makeup keeps their energy up, you know, their inspiration. If they're annoyed, then they're not going to do their best work. And then you don't want the model to be stressed out and upset because she was late, because then she's not going to give it her all if she's feeling a little bit of pressure. So things like that happen a lot, where one element doesn't go well, and if you don't manage it well as a photographer, as the event coordinator, everything can just crumble. So today I was able to kind of keep everyone upbeat, try to keep everyone on schedule, and I mean, you couldn't tell in the shots that there was any problems, and it worked out. It wasn't at the end of the world or anything like that. One of the things I love about Brooke too is that this location, many other photographers that I know, especially fashion photographers, would not go to that location because you have to trek through mud, and tick-infested weeds and up and down hills and then walking on extremely unsafe shipwrecks and things like that. But Brooke and I are on the same page. If it's gonna make the image, we'll do it. It doesn't matter. And of course, we're gonna be smart about it, but it's all about that final image, that final result. And so I love Brooke for that. And so anyways, when we got to the shipwreck today, I was testing things out, and so I put the model in some place that I had tested for safety, and I'm shooting that. I love everything but the hair. You know, the hair, it was windy and it kept getting in her face and it was ruining the image, and I just kept looking at her hair and I felt that it was taking away. So sometimes you gotta be able to make a change. And so I kind of cut, and we went over and we fixed the hair, changed things. I tried some without the cape, with the cape. Because what I usually do on a shoot is I come over and I look around and I try to figure out, okay, where are the angles of this shoot? You know, for example, where's the grand scene? Where can I get textures? Where can I get leading lines? And then where's the light? The composition is by the overall scene, and then where I put the model is where that light is, and I kind of work with that. Because a lot of times I don't use strobe on location, I don't take studio on location, because I'm just working with what's there to enhance it, to make it the best. So anyway, put the model where the light was good composition. I kept looking at the hair, and so we made a change. And then I see the light moves, and there's a highlight over in the corner, and then I move, and so that's okay. You know, I shoot a lot. I shoot a lot of images, a lot. I think Brooke maybe shoots, I don't know, for a whole shoot like 15. And when I do a full day editorial, if it's like 8 to 10 looks, I'll shoot 2,000-3,000 images, 2,200 images, and then edit it down to what's best. One of the things that I notice in fashion photography is that we break the rules. Like, we do the opposite of exactly what you learn in portraiture. So one of the things I would teach somebody for portrait photography is not to use a wide-angle lens, a really wide-angle lens for a portrait, except for it looks fashiony when used correctly. So for example, today I was shooting the Sigma 24-70 2.8 lens. And most of the time I was shooting at 24 millimeters. I mean, how often do you think of a portrait lens or a full-length shot at 24? Well, it fit perfectly, because when you're shooting at a wide angle, it really exaggerates the scene, and it really helps to make it feel like it's engulfing the camera. You know, that shipwreck is raising out of the sea and surrounding me at all angles. And so that's something that I encourage people to do. And people are asking me, well, do you want a reflector? Do you want a flash on location? No, you know, I wanted to use the natural light, and I would just overexpose. I overexposed from what my actual camera meter reading would say by like 2.5 stops, because it was so dark in the shadows and so bright in the highlights. I way overexposed, but it didn't matter, because the highlights, the sky just goes white, and I didn't need detail in the sky. So it's things like using a 24 millimeter lens or blowing out the highlights that sometimes make an image look higher end. It's about learning the rules and then breaking the rules, because if you break it with control, it can have absolutely the highest impact. When I was shooting, the way I was shooting, it's funny, I was thinking kind of in my professional fashion photographer mind. I shot a lot of really strong horizontals with negative space to be the lead double page spread in the story, where the title would go and with my name. And so it was actually something that kind of revelation to me, is that when I see a strong shot that I know would be a great opening spread, I go, oh, okay, let's shoot it that way. In the same way that sometimes I'm shooting, I'm thinking, ooh, a little bit of headspace, because I can put, you know, the cover or the title of the magazine above that. And so obviously, if I was shooting it thinking it's the lead of a double page spread story, I must have liked it. So I think they'll be really great.
Today we got to do some really fun things together. We got to sort of do some exercises that were a little bit different from anything that I've ever done before. I got to film a pro tutorial download, and so I had everybody write letters to themselves that were from themselves in the future. So we were taking a look at what the whole next year of our lives would look like, and it ended up bringing out some really amazing and insightful emotions that I think everybody sort of shared. So it wasn't, you know, just one person reading a letter out loud to everybody else. It was one person sharing something that everybody else was feeling. It was really incredible. After that, I had everybody shoot blindfolded, which was really interesting, and I've also never done that before. And it's a really scary thing to tell a group of photographers that they're not going to be able to look at what they're taking a picture of, but that's exactly what we did. And that went really well. I think just about everybody was really happy with the picture that they got, even though they didn't even click their own camera. So I really enjoyed that part of it, and just stressing the fact that you don't have to actually click the camera to take the picture. So after that, we got to go shooting, and shooting was very fun. Lindsay did her styling and hair and makeup and all of that stuff, and I just got to sit back and kind of watch her go through that process, which was interesting because it's the opposite of my process. So when we got to the location, I was really surprised by it because I was envisioning sort of a big ship on land, and it was very much not like that. It was lots of wooden pieces everywhere, and it was actually kind of hard to tell that there were ships there. So I changed my game plan when I got there, when I realized that my original concept wouldn't work. And of course, I still wanted to create something with an amazing location. And the great thing was that it was a really inspiring location. So everybody there, you could just see their brains working, and how am I gonna work with this? What am I gonna do with it? So I spent a good hour to 2 hours climbing wooden pieces and seeing how I could get to different spots in the location. And when I finally found my spot, I had the last shooting spot of the day. And so just as the sun went down almost below the horizon, I did my shoot. It was really quick, really simple, but something that I felt really connected to. And to me, when I heard the theme Entrapment, it made sense to have the model in the water. But then I realized that I had this amazing opportunity to have the model interacting with the location in a more intimate way. And so when I made that connection and changed my game plan, and I had her sitting with the ship, it made a lot more sense to me because she was actually inside the ship, and the ship itself was also trapped, which I thought was a really neat juxtaposition. I was scouting a lot today while Lindsay was shooting, and it actually ended up being pretty cool because I was up really high watching her from sort of a bird's eye view. And it was really interesting because she had the model all over the place. And what's great about when Lindsay shoots is the fact that she does move around the scene and tries a lot of different things. And I go in with one set plan. And that's just the way that my brain works. I'm not a multitasker, so I think of one thing and I do that one thing, and then I feel happy that I got that one thing finished. Whereas Lindsay can do tons of things at once. She's already thinking about the next shot and how she's gonna move the dress and different things like that. And I thought it was really cool. It definitely was not something that I would shoot in a lot of ways. I would never have chosen that makeup, that hair, things like that. But for Lindsay, it was awesome. And the thing that we definitely had in common was that dress that she used. I was dying to use that dress and get that movement and motion going like she did. So that was really fun to see. And also just seeing how she dealt with the light. It was progressively going lower over the horizon. And just watching how she just made it work using sun flare and things like that, things that I would never do, but she made look beautiful. So the end photo, I really liked it in camera, and that's a good sign because it's always very stressful when you come out with a picture where you think, oh gosh, that needs a lot of work in Photoshop, and I don't think this one does. I'm going to be adding in a sky to the background, so all clouds back there. I'm gonna make that red pop a little bit more. I'm going to make the dirt show up on her body because we covered the model in mud as well. So there are little things that I'm going to do to enhance the photo, certainly, but I was really happy with how it turned out, especially because of all the lines in the image. So we had a lot of boards from the ship, wooden boards, coming towards the camera and making all sorts of shapes within my frame. It was super interesting to me, so I'm really excited about that. And I will be editing that photo from start to finish as another pro download later on.
Well, Brooke, if your shot does happen to magically be better than mine, it's all because I lent you my shirt and let you destroy it. So, whatever.
Hi everyone, Brooke Shaden here. We can't fit everything into our episodes, so head over to the Pro Download section and you can check out tutorials and extra content that's available for download.